Hello, I am Wallas, the Polish toy guy, and today I will review Transformers Generation 1 Mega Turbomaster Rotorstorm, and this is a result of me listening to the suggestions made by my viewers, including the one who said that he likes when I review all the toys from our childhood, and I find it a nice suggestion that I will incorporate into my review schedule for some time ahead. Let's give it a try and let's see what Rotorstorm has to offer. And I think this is a good moment to pass on a few bullet points about this toy and character so that I don't dwell on these too much ahead in the review. So A. This toy was exclusive to the European branch of Generation 1, just like it was the case with the entire Turbomaster subgroup and Predator subgroup and a few other things. B. Due to the set exclusiveness, these toys did not get much coverage in Transformers media, that is until the comics by IDW came along, where both Rotorstorm and Thunderclash, also included in this picture, were given quite nice characters in the comics. C. Rotorstorm was originally released in 1992. D. This is my third Turbomaster that I reacquired after initially having some of them back when I was a kid. And finally, the Mega prefix is because Turbomasters and Predators were separated into 3 size classes, just like modern Transformers toys, and being a Mega Turbomaster, Rotorstorm is in the middle. He is not the smallest, but also not the biggest toy from this subgroup. Oh yes, I'm very happy that I took care of this information as bullet points, because when I first tried to review this toy 2 days ago, I blabbered about these things for way too long, making the final review way too long. So now this is my second take, hopefully a bit shorter and more to the point. And using this idea, let's take a look at Rotorstorm, the attack helicopter. Very nice, very blue, transforming piece of plastic that's very nostalgic, like I said, and also quite pretty even without the nostalgic baggage that it carries for me. As you can see, 6 missiles on landing gear and inside these engines. A bit of pink for the canopy, for these, I think, thrusters, rotor blades, and also for stickers. And as you can tell, my stickers have seen much better days. This is one of the toys I bought off the second-hand market. I think I'm the second owner, chances are I'm not, but I think considering the age, this toy is in a pretty good shape. Not perfect, but fine for me. Also, it's around 22 centimeters long in this mode. It's quite hefty, very nice to hold in your hand and very, very nice to look at. Especially with all of these mechanical details that just ask for panel lining if I was not bent on keeping this in a fairly original state. These toys did not have a plethora of details like modern movie toys, but that was enough to pass on this feeling of mechanicness. You knew that this was mostly a helicopter, a vehicle, a machine. And yes, you could see some bits of the robots in a few places, but overall, if you don't look in the middle of the tail, this is a pretty nicely concealed robot. And also, this channels light really well, so I like to look at it in daylight. Like I said, it's just a delight to look at this toy. And of course, we have gimmicks, like the fact that the rotor blades spin, although the quality of the spin depends on your individual piece. We will come back to this topic later on. And also, I like these missiles. If you take a closer look, you may notice this little slit in the back, and that is because these are interchangeable with every single Turbomaster if in case you run out of ammo with one of them, which was a case in, well, my case, because my Rotorstorm came only with 3 missiles, so the remaining 3 were borrowed from my boss that I reviewed previously, and they will go back to their rightful owner after I'm finished with Rotorstorm. And aside this little feature, Rotorstorm also shares the main gimmick of the entire Turbomaster subgroup, that is, having something cool to do with his firing mechanisms. In case of smaller, simple, basic Turbomasters, it was just an engine block firing in some way, and that's also the case with Turbomaster Rotorstorm, who also has missiles firing from his engine blocks, although in his case, you actually have to use a special button behind the rotors to gain access to the triggers, because right now these are handles for robot mode, no trigger to be found right now. But if you press this button, special springs and locks will fall down, allowing you to swing things down and reveal the triggers, which usually work, but not always. Let's see if this is the case today. You have to depress it really, really low to make your point. But it works, and the springs inside are really strong. Many people admire Turbomasters for how long their firing range is. But yes, this is, I suppose, a nice gimmick for a kid, but as an adult I find it kind of boring. The only thing we really gain is access to the trigger. Not the most amazing thing under the sun, especially for a collector who doesn't really mind not firing his missiles for eternity. Still, I bought Rotorstorm for nostalgia and his looks, so I'm not all that bothered by it. And now, it's time for vehicle mode comparisons. And let's start with G1 related things, which sadly I don't have all that many yet. Still, here we have an unmissiled Boss and Iron Fist, and for slightly younger things, here we have the Classics version of Ultra Magnus and the Japanese version of Titan's Return Cup. And just in case some of you are affiliated with the Church of Bumblebee, here is his first deluxe from the 2007 first Bay movie, the Camaro 76 version. And now it's time to transform Rotorstorm into his robot mode. The camera is angled up because he's going to be a fairly tall toy. So first we get our hands on the engines/weapons and remove them from their posts. This is going to be necessary to finish this transformation. And now we can do the automorph on this side for the landing gear. There we go. We can complete it on the other end. As you can see, it should kind of jump into place, get clicky, but these clicks had the semi-retirement. Anyway, now we go back to the tail and split it, where we can already see Rotorstorm's fists, which are double connected over here in the forearms and over here in this center fin piece. And now we have to stretch it out and put it back together at the front with this peg and this slot doing a docking. And it goes in. We can now fold the rotors together and unplug this blue section and also de-gearwalk his knees and lift up his feet. And I think I did the good thing by angling up the camera. Now we go to his arms, swing them down, and maybe click his elbows a bit, like this and like this, and that's still quite sturdy. Yes. Now we can pull down on his rear stabilizers so they end up on his back. And the final touch is to pull down his cockpit from vehicle position so that becomes his chest, at the same time revealing his head. And with that done, Rotorstorm's robot mode is complete. And I have to say, I like the robot mode. It's simple and kind of blockish like the majority of Generation 1 toys, but also quite charming in its own way. I like how the color scheme puts most of the lighter blue on top of the figure, and I like the quite humanoid proportions. And there's not much in the way of posability. You basically just can move the arms up and down using the side axis. You can bend the elbows, and you can move the legs a bit, though they are still connected at the knees, and give him a double kick backward and forward, but that's about it. The head does not move, even if it looks like it does, but that is not the case. Like I said, a simple transforming toy, but still looks quite nice. I also like this idea of putting the rear control surfaces behind Rotorstorm's shoulders. That's something very unique and something I don't think I've seen in Transformers after this toy. But while on one hand it looks kind of bizarre, on the other it looks definitely original and you instantly recognize that you are looking at Rotorstorm. Other things you can do, you can also split apart his rotor blades if you want to give him slightly more interesting look from the front. But I think even with that collapsed together, he still works. These missiles also are a very nice addition to this mode. And again, the stickers on my copy have seen much better days, as did the looseness on some elements. But again, very nice. The cockpit canopy idea also works, especially with this Autobot logo that's etched on the inside. And I also like the head. I mean, the design of the helmet is very nice, very angular. The big visor slash eyes also works, especially with all of that light piping going on the back, which means you can illuminate his eyes with sunlight or other light source really well. And also this fully painted silver face that's kind of stern looking, really great. And again, the mechanical details are not omnipresent, but what we have is enough to portray this as a robot toy. Really nice. Not excessive, but definitely working. The weapons, once detached, are also quite nice. They definitely look like some sort of air-based engine. I really like how this nozzle or thruster bit, I'm not sure, I'm no helicopter expert, is made from translucent pink plastic. The tip of the missile stands out nicely, great contrast with the rest of the gun, and again it fires really fine if it actually works. Oh dear. There we go. I also like the fact that these guns look nice both when loaded and unloaded, giving me extra display options, which I always like. And because the handles and hands both use the 5mm diameter, this means you can weaponize Rotorstorm with the vast majority of modern era Transformer weapons. One more interesting feature that I discovered in this toy only while reviewing it is that if you remove the missiles from the guns, you can store them on the back where they were in vehicle mode without any issues. And technically speaking, you can also keep the missiles inside the guns, but then the control surface areas will start to push on them and bend them inwards, and while this does not damage the mechanism or these pieces, it makes it slightly trickier to keep everything in place. And while you are here, you can also get your hands on the rotor blades and remove them, and since they connect again using 5mm port, you can then proceed to put the blades in the hands of Rotorstorm that you prefer to give him a very odd weapon that I think could be best described as some odd variant of the beam saber. And now it's time for robot mode comparisons. So again, let's start with Generation 1 theme. So here we have Turbomaster Boss, Sparkbot Guzzle, Lightformer Iron Fist, and Evil Predator Stalker, or should I say Mega Predator Stalker. And now let's go closer to the modern days with Deluxe Generations Sergeant Cup and Leader Class Ultra Magnus from Combiner Wars, whose design is actually based on the IDW Comics version. And again, for those affiliated with the Church of Bumblebee, here we have the Studio Series Deluxe version 1 and version 1 of Deluxe from Dark of the Moon. And finally, for real-life objects, here we have the common cola can and $1 bill. So, to sum it all up, I really enjoy Rotorstorm for what he is. That is, a blocky, simple, great-looking, transforming robot from my childhood that I found fun and interesting both as a toy-loving kid then and as a toy-collecting adult today. If you ever come across him and think of buying him, go for it. I know I enjoy my copy a lot, even after all these years that actually just added the extra nostalgia factor to him. Worth the money in my opinion. And that's all for this video review. I will be back with the next one soon. And until then, stay well. Polish Toy Guy signing out.